Let us learn how to draw any trigonometric graph in 4 baby steps. Step number 1 is transformation of axis. We're going to shift our axis up and down depends on the questions. Step number 2 is we want to know how tall or how deep is our wave. Means the distance from the axis until the maximum and minimum point of the wave. Third step is the strokes. I want to know altogether how many strokes of the wave that I'm going to draw in the end. And last, we need to know what is the angle for each of the strokes. This is what I call as they have some apples. THSA. Let's begin with 5 sine 2x plus 1. We're going to break it down one by one, starting with y. This variable will tell us what should we use for our y-axis. If this is y, we're going to use y as our y-axis. If this is p, we're going to use p as our y-axis. If now we have hash, it's going to be hash. So let's go back to y at the moment. And the variables inside the trig function, or getting off like follow along with the trig function, these tell us what should we use for our x-axis. If we use x, our x-axis is going to be x. If this is t, our x-axis is going to be t. And if this is a, it's going to be a as well. So basically, whatever the variables inside the trig function will just tell us the variables that we're going to use for our x-axis. This one is the isolate number. Means it's all by itself. It's not together with the trig function at all. So basically what it do is it controls the transformations of our axis. It will tell us whether we want to shift the axis up or shift the axis down. So this is our very first step. So what it means is this is our original axis. By saying transformations means we're going to go to a new locations and draw a new line. So they tell us that we're going to go up by 1 unit and then we're going to shift the axis up by 1 unit. But then we're going to use the dotted line to represent the new line. You can think of like this original axis is the original WhatsApp group that your teacher invite you all into the group. But there's always one smart student that will come out and invite everybody except the teacher. So that the new group wouldn't have the teachers, and most of the time, the teacher wouldn't know about the existence of the group. So this dotted line is like the hidden group. So from now on, we will refer axis as the dotted line instead of the original axis. We won't use the original axis anymore. This is only for your teacher to use. So if now we have -4, it means we're going to go to the location that is below the original axis by 4 units, which is -4, and construct a new axis at there. So now let's go back to +1. Once we have the transformation done, the next step is our hash for height of the wave. Basically, they will tell us like how tall or how deep is the wave, where we have the maximum point and minimum point of the wave. But this wave will go in both directions, where we can calculate the distance from the axis. Again, as a reminder, our axis is now referred to the dotted line. What they tell us is the wave will go up by 5 units and go down by 5 units as well. So 1 plus 5 is going to be 6. So this is the maximum point of the wave. And same is going to go down by 5 units. So we're going to -5. So this is why I have -4 as my minimum of the wave. So now I have axis, maximum and minimum. So now we're going to look at the number that is together with the variable inside the trig function. This will tell us how many strokes or how many cycle or how many wave that we're going to draw it out. So basically, I will just take this number times 4 because one wave will contain 4 strokes. These two will tell us that we will have 2 waves. So what I mean by stroke is, you can think of if this is maximum, this is axis, this is minimum. If we start from axis, then we're going to take one step to the maximum. But this is the maximum. You can think of this is the wall where you bounce back to the axis. This is the second step. And then we will follow the same direction to go down to the minimum. This is our third step. But this is really the minimum. So there's a wall again to bounce you back to the axis. So this is what we call as a one wave that consists of 1, 2, 3, 4 strokes all together. But if you have 2 waves, means we have 8 strokes. So to make your wave looks better, we're going to draw the strokes in each of the line in axis that has an equal in length. Because we don't want to draw the graph later on. When we draw it out, sometimes we tend to have some is big, some is smaller. Can you see that? This is bigger, this is smaller. By using a ruler to measure 8 cm for 8 strokes, this will make sure that every of the wave will be equal in size. Once we're done to know the number of strokes, the last step is the angle. I want to know what is the angle for each of the strokes. You can think of that we only do it one round. One round is 360 degrees, but it divides into 8 equal parts. So if I divide by 8, it means each of the strokes will take up 45 degrees, starting with the axis is 0 degree, and we have increment of 45 degrees for each of the strokes. Or sometimes, if we use radian, if you can remember, 360 degrees is same as 2 pi. How do I remember this one is, you think of like 1 pi is for you and another pi is for your significant other, for your boyfriend or girlfriend. So all together we have 2 pi. And the 2 pi is going to divide into 8 equal parts. So each of them is going to be 1/4 pi. For these questions, we're going to use degree. Later on, we will look into radian. Once we're done, they have some apples. This is where we will start to draw our graph. Sine graph tells us that they start in the intersection. The intersection of 2 axes. Don't forget, our axis is now referred to the dotted line. So this is the location that where we start. And just a reminder again, one cycle means 4 steps. So if we start at axis, the next destination is going to be our maximum, but this is a wall, then we go back to axis, axis will follow to the minimum, and then bounce back again to the axis. So basically, this is the cycle. Let us plot the point, starting for axis, maximum, axis, minimum, and axis. So basically 4 strokes. This is the first, second, third, and fourth. So these 4 strokes will eventually make up a wave, or what we call a cycle of the wave. And then we'll continue with, because we know just now, 2 times 4 is 8 strokes. So we're going to continue the pattern where 5th strokes, 6, 7, and 8. And there we go. We have 8 strokes, which is making up 2 waves. Sometimes they will give you a limit where they say you are only required to draw the graph that is only until maybe 0 degree and up to 270 degree. So how do we settle this kind of things? You can do it like a cross. You can think of like we have the number of strokes and the angle. So we know this one we have 8 strokes must be settled between 360 degree. And if they ask me to do only 270, how many strokes should I draw it out? So you can do the cross multiply. If you have friend, you times, no friend, you divide, then you will eventually get that the answer is 6. So we just need to draw 6 of them, which is until 270. Or else, you can draw it out first and then erase afterward also will do. So now we have done 5 sine 2x plus 1. Let's have another example of 3 cos 3 over 2t minus 2. Like usual, we begin with a variable where they tell us about what should we use for our y-axis, and the variable inside the trigonometric function will tell us what should we use for our x-axis. And we start with the they have some apple. T is the transformations where we will look for the number that is isolated. As we can see here, this is the number that is being isolated. So negative 2 means we will shift our original axis down by 2 units, just like this. Once we're done with t, we're going to look for the height of the wave. The height of the wave again, then we go both way, means negative 2 will go up by 3 units. Negative 2 plus 3, you get 1. And it will also go down by 3 units, so negative 2 minus 3, you get negative 5. So just as a reminder, it will go both way, and our axis is now the new line. So sometimes, if the question gives you the maximum and minimum, but they don't tell you where is the axis, you can take up the 1 plus negative 5, means you take the maximum and you take the minimum and divide it by 2. You will get back the where is our axis. Then we know the C is eventually negative 2. Then we're going to look at how many strokes that we should draw it out. So this one will tell us how many cycles. So it's 3 over 2 times 4. Will tell us we need to draw all together 6 strokes. Then we're going to draw out the line first so that later on all of our wave will look equal in size. In these questions, we're going to use radian. So as a reminder, radian is 2 pi, but we have 6 strokes. So each of the strokes is going to be 1/3 of the pi. So starting from here is 0. This is 1/3, 2/3, 3 over 3, 4 over 3, 5 over 3, and 6 over 3. But make sure that you simplify, and then all of them are in terms of pi. So means 3 over 3 is going to be pi only, and 6 over 3 is 2 pi. Or we can use the calculator method, where first we press 0 in the calculator and immediately follow by the equal sign. Then we plus the number of the increment that you found. For this case is 1 over 3. Once you plus, then you press equal, and from now on, you can just keep pressing equal. It will generate all of the points for you. Let's go back to our sequence. So once we're done with the angle, we are ready to draw our cos graph. Cos graph for me, C for the champion, where it will always starts at the maximum point. So if they start at the maximum, but don't confuse, although it looks quite low, but this is our maximum, this is our axis, this is our minimum. So if it start here, this is already the wall. So the only way that he can go is going back down. So the second point is our axis, but follow the same direction, minimum. But minimum, there's a wall here, so it bounces back to the axis. Then only it go back up again to the maximum point. And 4 strokes will make 1 wave. So this will basically the same as the sine, but they have a different starting positions. But all together, we need to have 6 strokes, because 3 over 2 times 4 is 6, which is 1.5 wave. So the first stroke, second, third, fourth. This is actually 1 wave, 5 and 6, 1.5 wave. And this is how we draw y equals to 3 cos 3 over 2t minus 2. And the last example for today is y equals to tangent 2x. So we know y will tell us the y-axis is y, And the variable inside the trig function will tell us the x is going to be used in the x-axis. We're going to use the same method. THSA, they have some apples. T is the transformations where we are looking for the isolated number. But since there's no number at the back, no number at front, so it means they don't have any transformations. It means they will remain to use the original WhatsApp group. So when we use the same line, good means no student that making a new group behind the teacher. And next, the height. So the height is usually, if they don't give you any number, it means 1. 1 means from the axis, go up by 1, go down by 1. But tangent graph is a special graph where it does not have any amplitude. Means you won't need to draw the maximum or minimum because tangent graph will always go to infinity, which later on we will tell you about one story. And as for strokes, how many strokes altogether? We take the number times by 4, then we know altogether we have 8 strokes. So the rule of thumb is we draw the line on the axis first, so that later on everything will be equal in size. And last is the angle. If we use the 360 degree, we're going to divide by 8. We know each of them is going to be 45 degree in the increment. So once we have everything done, we are now ready to draw tangent graph. Let's begin with a story where tangent, where Tan, T-A-N, is our friend. Tan in the beginning starts at the intersection first. But he is a guy that always dream very big. He say one day, he want to aim to be the sky is the limit. Mean he will aim very high to go to the infinity. But once he reached the top, he become very ego. This way, he set a boundary and don't want to speak with other people anymore. But the ego make him fall deep to the bottom here. And from here, he starts to grind again to become the best of the best. Slowly, he go back to the axis and then dream big again to shoot the sky, and sky is the limit. So he go to the infinity, but again, once he reach the top, he ego, and his way he set the boundary, and he will fall again. So the story repeat itself again and again and again. So this is our first strokes, second, third, and fourth. Basically, you can think of like it starts at the intersection, it go to the positive infinity, but because of the ego, it drop back down to the negative infinity, and then slowly climb back the ladder again. Go to axis, go to infinity, fall back again, axis, infinity, fall back, axis, infinity. Or you can think of like every odd number strokes has asymptote, which is the zone that is no-go zone. Means we can go very near, but we cannot touch the line. So odd number stroke as in, this is the first stroke, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Odd number as in 1, 3, 5, 7. So those odd number strokes eventually will have a asymptote, which is our boundary. Then only when we start at the intersection, where I already explained to you, they start at the axis, they aim for the maximum, but the ego will lead to go to minimum and slowly climb back the ladder. And the story go again and again and again. So this is our first stroke. And then it fall back due to ego. So this is why it start from the bottom, climb to the axis, and go back up again. Fall again, but it won't give up. If they happen to ask about the period of a stroke, just as a reminder, for tangent graph, every 2 strokes is 1 period, means the period is only 2 strokes. Meanwhile, for sine and cos, the period is going to be 4 strokes. Because as we can see here, for tangent graph, it repeats itself every 2 strokes. Meanwhile, for sine and cos, it repeats itself only after every 4 strokes. And there we go. We have done tangent to x graph. Hey, if you want to join my online tuition class, please drop me a message on Telegrams. Or if you want to support us so that we can make more videos like this, the simplest way is just to sharing the video with your friends. Hit the like buttons and consider subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.